What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to be talking about the intra-club match for Port Adelaide that happened earlier this afternoon. A very good contest that occurred at Alberton Oval. Unfortunately, I didn't get to stream all of it. I have gone back and had a look at a couple of things, and with the help of fellow Inner Sanctumer Adam Schultz, who's a mad Port Adelaide fan, so shout out to him. He's helped me out with a few notes as well. So this is what I learnt from Port Adelaide's intra-club match that happened today. Now, a lot of you would have been watching, would have been tuning in. A lot of you would have been, seeing what people were commenting all over social media, and some of you probably wouldn't have cared less about the intra-club match and are more focused on what happens later on down the track in the pre-season games coming up, and also when we get to round one. And that's completely understood. We take this game with a grain of salt anyway, but we look at the individuals more so than the result. And there was a lot of things that I took out of it from what I did see. And one of them, before I get into the actual things I learned, is that it's very interesting to see how we've turned, how we're going to turn in 2022. And I already get that early sense of, I think we're going to be pretty similar in how we play, and there's going to be a lot of quicker ball movement. I think we worked on some of that, but I think most of all it's going to be pretty similar to last year with a few extra dynamics thrown in there, and I think it comes down to the individuals now more so than the actual plan, because in hindsight, really, the plan works to a T. We know that. It got us to a prelim. It's just basically the individual performances that need to happen on the day and everyone to click. So, majority of these are basically what I learned about individual players. And the first thing I learned, and it happened from the outset, Sam Powell-Pepper, he is making his statement. He's proving his point right now. The fact that he was challenged at the start of pre-season, he's come in to this pre-season with a lot of work under his belt. He's put in the hard yards, and the early signs from just this intra-club match is he looks on. He was put on the white team, which Ken Hinkley said before the game was basically the players that were proving their statements and looking to make a early run for round one. Players like Josh Sin were in there, and Jace Burgoyne and players like that were in and around the white team mark, and they were players that were proving their point. And SPP, well, what a first half he had. He was unbelievable. 3 goals in the second quarter as well. Was just absolutely magnificent. His run, his attack on the ball, his commitment, it was 100%. And yeah, it's against his teammates. But the way he was looking, it was definitely something to keep your eye on going into the preseason games coming up. And I mentioned Josh Sin earlier. This is the other thing I learned too, is he is making a very strong case for round one. I know it's only an intra-club match, and I'll keep making that point because I don't want to take too much away from him. But the way he looked, he made 3 rundown chases for holding the ball. He was great with the ball as well, and he made great choices. His speed's sensational, looked very good in the contest. And the commentators, Chris Dittmar and Tim Ginniver, Tom Rockcliffe were all stating, he's almost a lock for round one. And with a couple of injuries that are happening and players that might not be having great pre-seasons or interrupted pre-seasons, he's definitely on the look-in. And, with the sub rule, and I hope he doesn't start as a sub in his first game, that's just cruel. But he has a very, very good sign. And there's a group out there, and Tim Ginniver meant it on the broadcast, that his nickname is actually Confession, which, that's absolutely fantastic. But and that's the other thing I learned. His nickname's Confession, which is great. But yeah, look out for Josh Sin across this pre-season. I think he's a very good pickup, and I'll look forward to seeing what he can do come the pre-season games and into round one. Another thing I learned as well was, and I challenged this boy a couple of weeks ago with a video, Todd Marshall. He was clunking everything, going into packs, and I loved his intensity. And I haven't seen a lot of that. He's still built his way over the last couple of years, but he seemed to put in a performance in this intra-club match where I think he looks like he's ready to explode. Now, I will hold that judgment, and I'm going to be very critical of Todd Marshall this year because I want him to be at his absolute best. So when he gets to the point of he needs to take his game to the next level, this is it. And he looked very good today in the intra-club match. Clunking marks, kicking goals, setting us up, moving up the wing. Very good at centre-half forward, and that's what we're looking for. So hopefully he continues that right throughout this year. The other thing I also learnt was Dante Visentini was very, very competitive in the ruck. Now, Adam Schultz was telling me that he was very competitive He looked very comfortable actually against Lysette, and he took on Finlayson as well. And Finlayson's another one that was very impressive in this intra-club match. But Vicentini was very, very good. He wasn't getting a lot of touches and wasn't getting a lot of feel of the ball, but he was competitive and really making Lysette earn it. And I think that's what you want when you're competitive in your competitive matches like this. And he's still developing as a ruckman, but he was able to really bring the contest, and that's something you absolutely need as a young ruckman developing through, and you're building your craft. Because if you have that competitiveness to start with, then you've got that base that you can build on and really make sure that things happen from there. So very good from Dante. Looks very nice indeed. A few other mentions as well. Jackson Mead was sensational. I thought was racking up all the possessions in the middle. He was very, he looked very comfortable. And the other thing too, he was a lot of a starting mid. He was in there quite a bit, and the mixes in the midfield too were very interesting. Carl Amon with Butters and Drew, and then you'd have Mead, Drew, and Carl Amon, and then you'd have the starting, which was Boak, Wines, and Butters. So something to keep an eye on when it comes to those mixes, and I think a lot of rotations like that. Boak as well, very quickly, was on the wing a few times as well, and I hope they're not drawing him away from that. And I know you got to give time more for the other players to get in there, but we know how damaging he can be now, and he looked very comfortable playing on a wing. It was moving very well. I think it's more so to give guys more time in the middle, but I'm keeping my eye on Boak. I hope there's not a little bit of a role shift as such. The next thing I learnt, and it happens every year, you watch an intra-club match or you go to the family day, internal trial, and you're there and you're like, I'm hyped. I'm loving it. I'm believing we're winning a premiership after watching an intra-club match. And as a person, you look at it and go, oh, it's just a trial. We're going to see what happens later on. It only really proves a point when you can put 4 points along the line. But these intra-club matches get me way overhyped. And I'm sitting there at work today watching what I could. And I'm just like, all right, we're winning it. He's the best player to ever play. Josh Sin, best draft pick. He's going to win the Rising Star Award. You name it. Like, all these things were going through my head. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, God, it's happening again. And I know a lot of Port fans would have felt the same way. But it's just good to see that we're getting a taste of footy very early on. And lastly, the broadcast. I don't know if a lot of people tuned into the live stream. If you did, you would have noticed that Tom Rockcliffe was in there. And it's great to have him still around Port Adelaide and keeping in touch and doing things for the club. But he had need to roll in the media when it comes to commentating. I very much enjoyed his insight into the players and what he thought of the game. And I think he has a very good eye. So keep an eye out for what he does across the season, because having him around and in the commentary box was very good, very, very indulging when it came to watching the live stream. So there's just a little bit of a taste of what I learnt from the intra-club match. If you watched it, Port fans, comment below what you learnt from today's intra-club match. It was a very entertaining one. Great to see the individual performances that we saw, and I'm sure there was many other things that I missed that you guys learnt along the way. So let me know in the comments below. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe for plenty more Port Adelaide content that will come your way across season 2022. Not long to go now until round one. Pre-season matches start next week. Port Adelaide versus Gold Coast on Friday, so keep an eye out for that. That'll be streamed on KO. My season predictions will be coming out in the next few days, so if you're keen on that as well, make sure you have the notifications going, because they will be coming out very, very soon. And that's about it from me from today. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Anthony, and as always, can't the pair.